it's hard to imagine that some people resort armed to robbery for some of the reasons that other people reject violence. And that's why there are many theories of deviance that can give us more perspective on how and why both the armed and the pacifist became deviant. And through sociology, we are able to explore how the deviance and the two different people relates to the society as large. And with that, I am Dane Vic Anthony A. Domingo from BS Social Work 2A, and I will be discussing about the theories of the strain theories. While deviance might be necessary, some societies can have more or less of it than others. And to explain the difference of this information, American sociologist Robert Merton proposed by the 1930s and 1940s what he called the strain theories. Strain theory in sociology proposed that pressures derived from the social factors such as lack of income or lack of education, which drives individuals to commit the crime. Merton argued the amount of deviance in society on whether the society is provided sufficient means that leads into a defined goals or the culturally defined goals. However, in the United States, the financial success is one of the strongest culturally defined goals and the means of achieving good one or something like in having a good quality of education, so that it is called a American dream or the American dream, which is an idea of knowledge in working hard to achieve financial stability as a prime example of what Merton's called. Classic strain theories focus primarily on disadvantaged groups, wherein common aspirations such as the American dream and the inability to achieve those goals was considered a driving factor behind crime. Then individuals whose incomes place them below the poverty threshold, for example, were unable to realize common, social accepted ambitions through legal means, and thus they were forced down a path of criminal behavior to achieve their goals. And those theories later were reformulated most prominently by American criminologists Robert Agnew and Stephen F. Messner and Richard Rosenfeld. The results of Agnew's work was general strain theory, which addressed weaknesses in earlier strain theory, including inadequate explanations for middle-class delinquency and inconsistencies between aspirations and expectation for fulfilling them. Key components of general strain theory included its consideration for the role of emotion in strain-derived crime and its consideration of a broad range of possible sources of societal pressure that might cause a person to commit crime. According to Robert Merton, the role of culture versus social structure was used as an example of striving for wealth in the United States. And so, it's okay to not achieve, but everyone should try. The culture also determines the norms of middle-class values and Protestant work ethic. According to Robert Merton, not everyone can achieve, so it's important to have standards. It shows that those who don't achieve will have the value. It's not how you win, it's how you play the game. But also, there has to be something for those who do not achieve to value to strive for. So, when the strain occurs, the culture places a disproportionate emphasis on the achievement of the goal of the accumulated wealth and maintains that this goal is applicable to all persons, and the social structure effectively limits the possibilities of individuals within these groups to achieve this goal through use of the institutionalized means of the anomy. And what this all mean by anomy? Merton used this strain to explain the high concentration of the crime within low income of the communities. He actually focused on the social structure rather than the culture, and the fewer legitimate opportunities to obtain wealth for the lower class, and what can be done through the adaptations of the conformity, the innovation, the ritualism, the rhetoricism, and the rebellion. So first, we have to reconsider conformity as an achieving goal by a way of conventionally approved dreams. And simply going to school, getting good grades, of course to graduate, to get a good job, by being work harder, getting rich, success, and wealth. Of course, even wealth is our goal. And this approach isn't an option for a lot of people. And many who are raised in poverty, for instance, lack of a realistic path of prosperity. And if we don't have access to the means, like money for an education or goods, or the paying jobs, opportunities, then the goal will be elusive too. So, one response to the lack of acceptable means is to use unacceptable means, and that is deviant one. And therefore, Merton called this innovation, but here, innovation means nothing a little different from what you're used to, and Merton used to describe the deviant solutions that people came up with their own responsibility to reach of their goals. And in this case, it could be include everything from petty thievery or to organize the crime, and the goal is still financial success. And but the illegitimate means used to get there make it also deviant. And therefore, Merton called this ritualism. It is about a deep devotion to the rules because they are the rules. And of course, you're the option. And it is to reject the whole system altogether with the means, the goals, and all of it. And that is ritualism. Furthermore, in this kind of response, which Merton labeled rhetoricism or the rhetoricism, is a person basically drops out of the society, and by rejecting both of the conventional means and the goal as well. So, Merton classed drug addictions and alcoholic in this group because he saw this addiction as a way of escaping the pressures of the goals and means. But rejection can also be constructive. Next is rebellion. When we say rebellion, it is a rejection of goals and means by the context of counterculture. And in that way, it's the one that supports the pursuits of new goals according to a new means. And of course, the artist who doesn't want financial success but instead it pursues recognition from their peers as an example of this. So basically, the structural functional perspective of deviance provides some of the useful way of thinking about how deviance works on a macro scale, and therefore it works also on the assumption that everyone who does a deviant and the things will be treated as deviant as well. So the other paradigm of sociology call into the question of, they point out that social status impacts how deviance is punished or whether it punishes or punished at all. Lastly, Merton theory was not to account for all a deviant behavior, rather to look at the acute pressure created by disparity between culturally induced goals and socially structured